Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond excited for today's guest. He's the man who made a soup can the most famous piece of art in the world. Welcome to the show, Andy Warhol. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Hello, Calvin. People call me a pop artist, but I always thought of myself as a commercial illustrator who just never stopped working. I liked making the ordinary look extraordinary.
You certainly did that. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on August 6th, 1928 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was a very industrial place, very gray, which is probably why I liked bright colors so much later on.
And what was your given name at birth?
My parents named me Andrew Warhola. I eventually dropped the A because it sounded a bit more modern, a bit more New York, don't you think?
Definitely sleek. What was your hometown like growing up in Pittsburgh?
It was a working-class neighborhood. My father was a construction worker and my mother stayed home. It was humble, but we had what we needed. I remember the soot from the steel mills. It was everywhere. It made everything look like a blurry photograph.
What was your family life like?
It was very close-knit. My parents were Byzantine Catholic immigrants from what is now Slovakia. We went to church all the time. My mother, Julia, was my world. She was so creative herself. She used to make flowers out of tin cans and old crackers. I think I got my love for junk from her.
What kind of kid were you?
I was very quiet. I was quite sickly, actually. I had something called Sydenham's chorea. People called it St. Vitus's dance, which made my limbs shake. I spent a lot of time in bed, drawing and collecting pictures of movie stars from magazines. I was a bit of a loner, but my bedroom was a very colorful place.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Oh, I was terrified of hospitals and doctors. Because of my illness, I associated them with being poked and prodded. I also feared being ordinary. I wanted to be part of the glamorous world I saw in the movies.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I wanted to be a tap dancer. I loved the rhythm and the shiny shoes. But since I wasn't very coordinated, I settled for drawing the dancers instead.
In school, what were some of your favorite activities?
Art class, naturally. I wasn't very good at sports or math, but when I had a pencil in my hand, I felt like I could finally speak. I also loved the school newspaper. I liked seeing my work printed over and over again.
What was your first job?
Aside from some window dressing in Pittsburgh, my first real job was in New York as a commercial illustrator. I drew shoes for Glamour magazine. I got quite famous for my blotted line technique. I love drawing shoes because everyone wears them, but everyone wants them to be special.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I think it was when I realized I liked the commercials during the TV shows more than the shows themselves. Everyone else wanted high art, and I just wanted to paint what I ate for lunch.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Someone suggested I paint something that everyone sees every day, something like a Campbell's soup can. It seemed so silly at the time, but it changed my whole life.
That was definitely your biggest break. What were your biggest struggles before that success?
Being taken seriously. The serious artists thought I was too commercial. They thought because I did advertisements, I couldn't be a real artist. I had to fight to show them that a soup can is just as beautiful as a sunset.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. I couldn't stop if I tried. To me, working was like breathing. If I wasn't making something, I felt like I was disappearing.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines essential to your success?
I went to mass almost every morning. People didn't know that about me. And I spent hours on the phone every day. I'd call my friends and just listen to them talk while I worked. I also loved to shop. I called it research.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I think I would have liked to be a florist. Or maybe a librarian, so I could look at the covers of books all day.
How did relationships change after success?
Everything became a bit of a performance. Everyone wanted to be around Andy Warhol, the character. I started surrounding myself with superstars at the factory. It was like having a big, strange family where everyone was famous for 15 minutes.
Did fame bring happiness?
It brought gadgets. I loved gadgets. Polaroid cameras, tape recorders. I called my tape recorder my wife because it went everywhere with me. Fame is fun because it lets you meet everyone, but it can be very lonely because you're never sure if people like you or the idea of you.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People thought I was a robot or that I didn't care about anything, but I cared about everything. I just thought it was more interesting to act like I didn't.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how you handled it.
In 1968, a woman named Valerie Solanas shot me at my studio. Everything went wrong that day. It was very painful and scary. I handled it by becoming even more obsessed with documenting everything. I felt like if I caught it on film or tape, it couldn't hurt me as much.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It let me buy a lot of cookie jars. I had a massive collection. But really, it just gave me a bigger canvas to play on.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My mother, Julia. She lived with me in New York for 20 years. She even signed some of my artwork for me because her handwriting was so beautiful.
What was life like in your final years?
I was very busy. I was doing a lot of portraits, working on my magazine interview, and even appearing on television. I was still going out to parties every night, but I was always the first one to leave so I could go home and work.
What were you working on in your career right before you passed away?
I was working on a series called The Last Supper based on Da Vinci's painting. It was very big and very colorful. I was also doing some work with young artists like Jean-Michel Basquiat. I loved the energy of the new generation.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on February 22nd, 1987 in New York City.
What did you pass away from?
It was a cardiac arrhythmia after a gallbladder surgery. I was 58.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I wore silver wigs. My hair started thinning when I was young, so I decided to make it an event. I had dozens of them, all slightly different shades of gray and silver.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
That I had a double who went to lectures and parties for me. Sometimes I'd tell people it was true just to see their faces.
What was your favorite food?
Sweets. I loved chocolate and cake. Sometimes for dinner, I would just have a naughty plate of candy. And cornflakes. I loved cornflakes.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
Serendipity 3 in New York. I used to go there for the frozen hot chocolate. It was so glamorous and sweet.
What was your favorite book?
I liked magazines more than books, but I did love The Philosophy of Andy Warhol, mostly because I got to write it.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
I used to carry a time capsule box with me. I'd fill it with everyday things, stubs, letters, half-eaten sandwiches, and then seal it up and date it. I have thousands of them. It was my way of keeping time from moving too fast.
What advice would you give people chasing success?